Hi everyone, and welcome to this quick Datawizz tutorial. Today we're going to show you how to take any traces or logs that you already have if you have an AI application using Langfuse and use them to fine-tune a specialized language model on the Datawizz platform using that data. So this is going to be perfect if you've already built an AI application using a large language model like GPT-4 or Claude 3.5 or 3.7. You now have all these traces on Langfuse, and you want to use that data to distill that knowledge or fine-tune a smaller model that's going to be more efficient for your specific task. So without any further ado, let's get started. So as a starting point, I have set up a project here on Langfuse. So this is just my Langfuse dashboard. You can see I have some traces running here, all of them just using the GPT-4o mini model. And you can see the actual traces here. All this is doing, it's a very simple application. I have some system prompt. I give it a text message and ask it to classify it as spam or ham. So, nothing too exciting here, but you can see that this is all kind of running through Langfuse. So, most projects are probably going to be more complex than this, but at the core are going to have very similar kind of format of traces here in the Langfuse platform. Now, let's say we want to take this data and use it to distill some sort of model. The first thing we're going to do is kind of filter here for the specific logs or traces that we want to use. So you can use all the different filters on the Langfuse platform. For now, I'm just going to take all of them, but you may want to customize this a little bit more to select what data is going to feed your model training. Once you've kind of selected and filtered out the logs that you want to use, I can go and do export selection and choose export as CSV. This is going to run the export in the background. I can see that it's processing here, so I'm just going to skip ahead. And now I can see that it was actually complete. So I can now go ahead and download my export. So now that it's downloaded, I can go ahead. I'm just going to open this locally just to kind of show what this looks like. So you can see here, I have like a big CSV file. It has a bunch of columns. Really what we care about from the platform perspective is those inputs and output columns. So you can see in the input, kind of the system prompt and the user prompt. And then the output, we're going to use those to distill and create a new small model. So to do that, we're going to switch over to the Datawizz platform. So I'm going to go ahead and open Datawizz here. I'm going to create a new project. I'll call it spam or ham and click create project. In this new project, I'm going to head over to the dataset section. So this is where I can actually take this data we exported from Langfuse and upload it into the Datawizz platform. So I'll create a new data set and I'll call it spam or ham data set. I'll click create. And now in the data set, I have my new empty data set. I can go ahead and click import CSV. And what I can do here is just drag that CSV file. Because it's already imported with the actual messages and roles, I need to go ahead and choose the full format. And once I have that, all I need to do is click import, and this will run and bring all of my logs into the Datawizz platform. So this will take a second. Again, I'm going to skip ahead here. Cool. So now we have the import kind of done. I can close out of this, and I can see all my logs from the Langfuse platform imported into Datawizz. And I can see that I have about 5,500 logs here. I can obviously paginate through them or kind of open them to see the full content. But again, this will be identical to what we have in the Langfuse platform. One thing I do want to go ahead and do is create a split. So basically, I want to take some of these logs before we run any training and reserve them on the side for validation. So after we train a couple of models, I'll run some evaluations and see which models are going to be the best for my task. For that, I want to create some data that I'm not actually going to use for training, just to make sure that I'm not evaluating with the same data that I've been training with. So I can click create split. I'll just call this split eval. We can go with a 10% ratio. That will be, can even do 5% in this case. It's going to be more than enough for some quick evaluations. I'm just going to go ahead and click create split. So you can see that the data, some items got removed from here. And if I go back to data sets, there's now a new evaluation data set that has almost 300 rows in it. That's just something that we can use later for evaluating the models that we fine tune. And Datawizz automatically shuffles all the logs before it splits them. So there's going to be a pretty randomly distributed set of logs. So now that we have the data in the Datawizz platform, I can go ahead and train a model. So I can go ahead and go into the model section. I'm going to click create new model. I'll call this spam or ham SLM. Let's say for now I want to use the Meta 1 billion instruct base model. We can go into the dataset section here and choose the training data. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. I could configure a bunch of training parameters here, but these defaults are probably going to be good enough for this specific base model. So I can go ahead and click start training. And what's this now going to do behind the scene is spin up the machine and start training up or fine-tuning this model with our specific data. This is obviously because there's a few thousand rows. This is going to take a minute. So I'm going to speed this up significantly or skip ahead, but probably going to take 10 to 20 minutes to go ahead and train that full model for us. And then we can look into how we can actually deploy that model and evaluate it. Okay, so now we have the model fully trained. I can see here, obviously we have all the training logs. I can see here some information about the model itself. I can go ahead and download the model files from this screen too, but first of all, let's evaluate and see how well it does. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and deploy that model. I'll put on Datawizz Serverless. So this is easy, no need to worry about servers. It'll just deploy it and you pay per token like you would with OpenAI or any other providers. So I'm going to click deploy. I can go to my providers page and I can actually see that it was deployed here. One thing that I want to do for our evaluations is I'm actually going to go ahead and also just deploy a 1 billion, the base 1 billion. So this is not the kind of trained version. And I'm also going to go ahead and deploy the 3 billion parameter versions. I just want to do that so that we can actually go ahead and compare the trained versus untrained version and actually see also the performance of a larger model and just get a sense of how these models are doing. So I'm now going to go ahead and evaluate that model. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new evaluation. I'll call it first pass eval, or you can obviously name it anywhere else, anything else you want. I'm going to start by adding our trained model. I'll also go ahead and add the base 1 billion parameter model and the base 3 billion parameter models. And again, just seeing all of them side by side will be a nice way to understand performance for SLM performance in general for this problem set. Now I'm going to go ahead and choose data sets. And remember when we split the data set into an evaluation set, this one we're going to use that. So this is fresh data. We didn't actually use this in training the model. So this is going to be fresh data that the model has never seen so we can test it with a realistic scenario. I'm going to go ahead and give it 50 maximum sample count just because I want this to run fast. Obviously, in a real world scenario, you might want to use a slightly bigger number. We can use string equality. I'm going to turn on trim and case insensitive just to be a bit more lenient. This is just the most basic way to evaluate. Because it's a classification problem, we're just looking for the classes to be identical, so string equality works. Obviously, for more complex scenarios like text generation, summarization, data extraction in JSON, there's a bunch more functions that we can use here to have more complex evaluations. But for now, we'll just do string equality, most basic, and I'm going to go ahead and start the evaluation. This is also going to take a second to spin up, so I might speed this up in the video. So I can see now that this is running, and we can see the results starting to stream in. I can see here that our model so far has 100% accuracy, so it's predicting the right label every single time. It seems like the 1 billion untrained model is actually not doing very well. It only has 37% accuracy. And the 3 billion parameter untrained also has pretty decent accuracy, so it's at 90. But obviously the training work so far seems like this model is actually as good as the original GPT-4o model that we're using. And this is a pretty amazing results if you think about it. So far we're almost at 50 full samples, and it's predicted the right class every single time. So it's doing as good as the original 4o mini model that we're using for about 1/10 of the price. So this is going to be an amazing improvement for any application where we might want to use it. And once the evaluation is finished, you can actually go ahead and dig through the logs here and see individual results. So you can see where the untrained 3 billion and 1 billion got some of these wrong, but our model actually got it right. And you can see individual results. You can even open them and see the full inputs and outputs. But for now, let's say we're happy with the result. The last step is just going to be to actually go ahead and switch over to our new SLM. And I mean, with 100% accuracy, there would be no reason not to do that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is actually configure an endpoint that we can configure into our app. Now, remember, our original app is using OpenAI GPT-4o Mini through Langfuse. So we're going to want to do a drop-in replacement. And the cool thing with the Datawizz platform is that it does offer an OpenAI compatible API. So we can actually keep using the OpenAI SDK and Langfuse just as we have been using before. We're just going to have to replace a couple of parameters. So to configure that, I'm going to go into the endpoint section, and I'm going to create a new endpoint for us. And what that is basically a router that routes our request to a model or a variety of models. So I'm going to go ahead and create an endpoint here. I'll call it SLM, spam, or ham. Obviously, in a real life scenario, you can give more descriptive names. I'll go ahead and click manage here, and I'll add an upstream. And what an upstream is basically just the model that we want to route requests to. We can define rules into how we route those requests. For now, I'm just going to route 100% of requests to a single model. So I'm going to go ahead and create Datawizz Serverless, spam or ham. Weight doesn't matter because we're only going to have one model, and I'm not going to define any rules. So I'm just going to add that model here. And here I'm going to get the integration snippet. So what you'll see here is, assuming we use Python, for instance, and we use the OpenAI SDK, this is basically going to give us the API key, base URL parameter, and the model ID that we're going to have to use. This is the only thing that we are going to have to replace. So in our app code, where today it probably has the OpenAI API base URL, API key, and a model name that says something like GPT-4o Mini, we just have to replace those three parameters, which are probably going to be environment variables or in the code itself. And as soon as we do that, it's going to start routing requests to our new SLM that's going to be significantly cheaper than the original model that we're using, significantly faster than the original model that we're using, and give us as good of an accuracy, if not better, if we used any human feedback. Another thing that you could do here and should probably do in a production application is you could add fallbacks. So you can actually add another upstream and turn on model fallbacks. That will just provide backup in case for any reason this model is not going to be responsive. We can actually use another model from OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, or any other provider as a backup to that. But that's really all you have to do to take your data from Langfuse, train a model with it, and deploy that model into the cloud. So as a summary, in this quick tutorial, we've been able to take our logs from the Langfuse platform, use them to train a model on the Datawizz platform, evaluate it, and see some amazing results from it, and then deploy it and put it into our application. So good luck, and please reach out to us if you have any further questions or any specific needs for your SLM training with the Datawizz platform.